There you go.
Thank you. The best way to listen to me is to close your eyes and just listen to my words and where they take you. What you are is really beyond comprehension from the places you are coming from. As you get stiller and stiller and quieter, and it seems like you're slowly dropping out of existence, your attention flows to me, close to yourself. And yourself sinks into yourself. What you are sinks into yourself. Let's say that self is the consciousness seed which created the trichotomy of you, heaven, and who's on nine. What you are when you dive within that darkness, that empty space, that limitless space, and you get there just by staring into the dark screen, but at the same time, shifting your awareness to the subtle body within. Not the physical body so much as the body that we're most acutely aware of as being ground of being. And that can vary from hour to hour. But we are feeling beings. And almost all the time that we're awake, we're feeling and we can express what we're feeling. But you know that just looking within is not the solution to anything. I mean, it's a way to get to a solution. But sometimes we get lost by looking into the hand or other places in emptiness. That's why it's a good thing to be able to continue feeling your body, because that, in brief, is your basement. That is the stamp of beingness. And having been with Robert and me for a while, listening to the chanting, doing meditation, and thinking to yourself, who or what am I? It becomes clear that this new way you're looking into things is changed only by the new understanding that this is you. Not only is your perception of the darkness and the immensity of nothingness, but your personal self. Are nothing compared to the direct experience of the totalitarian, total feeling of yourself as an energy being floating somewhere in space-time. And see that who you are is totally empty. This emptiness is not a blockage. It's not a barrier to be overcome or swallowed. It's the separation imposed upon us by having two selves within ourselves. The self we were born with, and the self which later becomes a spiritual seeker. But the deepest self within us that we first contact in meditation takes everything away. And by doing so, removes the illusion that you have thought of as yourself. What you are is that whole package of living and learning about oneself through school and through direct observation, which make you you in the traditional sense. But you're challenging this vision by plunging deeply into yourself with the kind of attitude that the self is found when the self is no longer working, where it doesn't have to. nor can you directly experience self as long as you continue to look inward. It doesn't matter at the end whether you're looking or not looking, whether you're a spiritual or not. The years of pointing yourself inwards into that inner darkness yields to you to let you know you are everything. The sky, the earth, your bed, your television set, the walls of your house, the words you hear in the air from outside. When you, as a person with a name, form, and place on earth, is gone, and increasingly you find yourself in a new kind of bliss. Sometimes it feels like a great happiness all around that you're sinking into. And you realize letting go of the last connections between you and your mind are necessary before you live as a self-realized person. Because only when you, as an unrealized person, get to know yourself as a realized person, that's where the real change takes place. Because you're not talking from your mind anymore. You're talking from your spiritual heart, with a heart-to-heart communication. The world that you see and you live in is your creation. I know there's been thousands of people that have interacted with you over the years that are both part of that matrix of yourself as an embodied being. But it doesn't feel that way. Right now, for example, I look into myself and there are no words. And what it feels like is a darkness that moves depending on how my head moves and how much light is coming from outside. And I feel my body acutely. And deeper inside that feeling of my body is something new. Or relatively new. That is the experience of immersing myself in my basic self. It's like you have a zero state self inside, which is yourself at rest as it is in meditation. And then you have a busy self, which is the same structure and the same thing that it was as a baby. And leave it all behind. When you can drop into yourself, feel that feeling of dropping into yourself. It's unmistakable. Just feeling it means already you're very advanced. It sort of sucks you into yourself and sucks things into you. But look now at what's around you. You can hear me. You can feel your body. Do you feel transparent? Or does your body feel solid and it's taking up space? When you disappear, you realize that you that disappeared was just an idea. Matter of fact, philosophers have known that since the beginning of time. You are spirit in body. But the world is also spirit and body. But it's opaque to you until you sink into your own emptiness. And find yourself as pristine beingness. In rapture all the time. The body itself is perceived differently. For me, it's a body of bliss all around me. I no longer know where I am. It does not matter. Nothing needs to make sense to me anymore. Because deep down, I know I am God, or with God is a better way to put it. And you can divide consciousness up later between who's who. But it's not important, because what is important is to recognize the deep spiritual body is ever present. And at least now, whenever you immerse yourself in yourself, you can divine this majesty yourself. You can become the mystic, a realized one. And I know that to a lot of people, you'll seem like a wacko, even for those who it's just shut my mind off into a layer of myself in the middle of my chest, about 11 inches long, maybe 3 or 4 inches in diameter. It's filled with light and it's within me. It makes me sort of wonder to myself, why aren't we just sitting in stillness, worshiping ourselves from within, instead of the way we do it now? Well, sure, do it if you know how. But it took me quite a few years to figure out how to get low enough into myself, deep enough into myself, where I could let anything go. It's a tough fight with reality. To have escaped its clutches and to have your nose totally focused on the happenings of your phenomenal self, what's happening in the world, what's happening with people you know and you love. There's more than the normal world that so few people know about. That's within you. It's the place where the thinker lives, even when he's not thinking, where your beingness is bound, even though you're not doing anything. To get to the place where you want to be enraptured with that energy self within, is to try with your inner imagination, jumping off of your mind and your head and jumping into your chest and downwards. The, the focus of your beingness should not be the eyes or the external world anymore, but what you become when you cease thinking, your eyes are closed and you want nothing. This is your fundamental state. Once you realize it, after long periods of meditation, it's like a tranquil lake. It is very deep and it's very dark. The lack of light eventually allows it to slip away from you and your existence in this world. You can even forget yourself in this world. and just dwell within that ecstasy, within that radiance, within that radiance extends throughout my whole body with a new kind of joy. Maybe due to Shakti, maybe due to many things. But you feel like you've washed away all of your old self. Maybe it was taken away from you suddenly. Whole portions of yourself disappear and take from you, leaving you bereft and screaming in loneliness and fear. But that person, even thrown away, is your past and the seed from which you come. The seer. Not, you might be the seeker and all that other shit. You get it so complicated when you talk about this level of what's real. The speaker or not the speaker, what's behind the speaker, what's above the speaker, what's spoken. It's all a jumble of concepts until we escape the concepts. And then it's so very simple. But it can't be put into words that anybody would understand because they don't have the experience. Maybe you feel once in a while a little of what I speak. And over time, you can tie those experiences together to get closer to it. But it only really happens to one who has abandoned their old self, or the old self has such a lot of fractures throughout it that it doesn't survive the realization that it's not real. I guess that would be the greatest crash a spirit could find. Listen to the silence. The question, who are you? That's only one meaning, one thing that is associated with it that you must know, and that is to dive inside of yourself, looking for who you are, and go deep and deep inside. Just keep doing that. And when you come out of meditation, you'll be so quiet. Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, Ed, this is Michael T. Hi,
I
thank you for, thank you, sir, for taking the time to allow us to have the questions. It's really invaluable. Um, I know as the months and years go by, you seem to be more and more in the deeper state of the meditative state in the Sanghas. I'm sure it takes quite some effort for you to sort of get up higher in shallow water to answer some of this stuff, but I appreciate it. The You once mentioned that in nothingness there is a different kind of bliss that it's based on peacefulness, or total peace. And my question is does that is do you find it in nothingness that it's just the simple state of silence, that is just it's a singularity, and it doesn't morph into like a sort of a bliss state that morphs and changes? Is it strictly a peacefulness that is just so nothing, that it's just nothing happens and it creates a resonance of peace? Or does it, or do we learn that nothingness, there's no such thing as absolute nothingness, and that it's forced to move into somethingness and becomes part of Shakti?
all three of above. Just kidding. Uh, if you can just get a grasp of your whole body and mind at once, if you can, and look inside this bubble, consciousness and flesh, and feel yourself descend from a higher level of consciousness to a more fundamental state of consciousness, otherwise known as clarity. The happiness that you feel arising from this state, I don't know what it is, but it feels like it comes from my heart, my gut, my spine. And if you could take that picture within you of those 4 steps, just turn away and look within. And once again, you'll be caught in that place between consciousness and matter, or subject object. But until you know the full blast of that other existence is like. You really won't know how to enter it. And the key to entering it is just continuously letting go as things come up. And when you sit in meditation, just peer into the darkness. Let yourself fall into it if that is what happens to you. It's a figurine such as you've given us with a high bliss potential of not having sharp surfaces or things like that, but very comforting touches from beyond. Michael, stop thinking so much. Just relax, fall back into yourself. Feel your breath wanting to leave also. Feel your consciousness as it wants to leave and for you to go to sleep.
And the things you teach us, I follow that, but I get so euphoric coming to the group and talking about exchanging thoughts and stuff. I sort of, and like when other students, like I remember Mark used to talk about his experiences and progressions. All that input that people give really helps. Um, we're not quite as advanced as you are, so when we when people give the input, it just it just helps, and I often like to talk about it because and I know the mind does its thing, but it's sort of euphoric on the human level for me to just have that minute with that exchange with you to hear from a real teacher about just the feedback. It's the happiest thing I could do. Come over here, get quiet during the week, and come here and listen to you talk. And I know the this is I saved the dumbest question so you could hit me over the 2x4 last, but when you mentioned earlier in the sangha that you get to a level where you just don't care anymore because you're in peace and you're doing your thing and you're with God. Do you mean that metaphorically in terms of a word, God, or is there?
Say that again.
You mentioned earlier in the sangha that things of just you just don't get concerned more about things in the real world and you're with God. So when you mention God, do
No,
you mean it?
it's
God?
not a literal statement. It's a figurative.
Okay,
It's like you're feeling
okay,
so much happiness and bliss and energy that you can't be bothered even answering the question.
okay. I know questions are very difficult because in the English language, things are so linear. It's not like the Chinese language where you could ask questions in a softer manner. Sometimes you ask questions and it comes out like I know it sounds pointed, and I apologize for that, but sometimes it's just like there's no words for it other than just asking the question. No way to soften the touch, I guess. Because I don't want to disrespect any you or anybody else here by asking a question that it may sound rough on the edges, but it never is meant to be. But
Did you
thank you
ask
for,
another question? Or is the last 30 sentences you said, what are they relevant to? Yeah, were you?
oh, I just didn't want to sound like somebody cocky when I ask questions because the
Oh,
English language is so direct and sharp, and this is such a sensitive topic that it might come across wrong sometimes. And in my heart, it's never meant to be that way. So, I love you for answering all that stuff and being our teacher, and no disrespect intended at all. And I'm sure in the future I'll ask sillier questions, but thank you.
Thank you much, Michael, for your participation. Okay. Take care. Continue to spend some time every day. Literally, it feels like diving within. Literally, it feels like you have to get up, turn around, and dive into yourself without doing it. Just stay in yourself. Dive into yourself. Keep diving and diving and diving. When you first get up in the morning, maybe you have some time to meditate, maybe you don't. Mid-afternoon is a good time for meditation. No more than 25 minutes at a time, and then a break, and then more 25-minute intervals. I love you all. I'll see you next Sunday then. Bye-bye.